games. It's ScrubGames. Drop a like, drop a sub, go ahead and subscribe to ScrubGames. Drop a like, drop a sub, go ahead and subscribe to ScrubGames.
How's it going, Scrub Gamers? Welcome back to another video here at ScrubGames, and today we have the next in our Understand How to Build series, going over the set 4 leaders to help you understand how to build them to suit you and your playstyle. So we had yesterday, we had Asajj, and now we have today Grand Admiral Thrawn. So if you're interested in kind of getting some help to learn how to build them, then feel free to stick around and watch, and yeah, hopefully you get some useful information. So before we get into it, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Keeps you updated with my videos as and when they drop. And also by clicking that notification bell, you can get alerts when my videos do drop, so you can watch them there and then, or later time that suits you best. So with all out of the way, let's go ahead and get into understanding how to build Admiral Thrawn. So, we like to start with the leader, because Star Wars Unlimited is a leader-based game, and you can't really play without one, same with a base. And it's always best to understand what it wants to do, because some are generic, and some are specific to a certain way of playing. So, with Grand Admiral Thrawn, how unfortunate, he is all about reusing when defeated abilities. So this is pretty cool. So he is a Villainy and Vigilance, so blue and black leader, and he deploys at 6. So once you get 6 or more resources, you can deploy him as a leader in the ground arena. So he's not one of the ones in the new set that have the alternative kind of a deploy, where he deploys on as an upgrade, so pilot on a spaceship or a vehicle, but he just deploys as a ground unit. On 6 or more resources with the power, with 4 power and 7 health. So a good amount of bulk and a decent amount of power as well. So his ability is basically the same on both sides, just slight differences. So they're both when you use a when defeated ability. So they both have that same trigger. And when he's in the leader area, you may exhaust him, and then if you do exhaust him, then you get to use that ability again. So it means you can only use it once while in the leader area. Yeah. And then when he's deployed, you may use that ability again, is basically the trigger. So you make, well, the effect is you may use that when defeated ability again, but then you can only use this ability once each round, which means once a turn. Yeah, so once a turn, you can basically go ahead and reclaim, or reuse a when defeated. So on your deploy turn, you can potentially get 2 when defeated effects twice, which is cool, which is really nice. But do remember, you do have to fill the cost. So if you're thinking of this with Super Laser Technician, it won't work, because unfortunately you actually have to physically put Super Laser Technician into the resources. So after you do it the first time, there won't be another copy in the drop to do it a second time if you'll try to use it with Thrawn. So do bear that in mind. You have to actually be able to physically do whatever the card wants to do. So as him, he also has Imperial and Official as his traits, which aren't that impressive. Well, Official doesn't have much outside of one kind of use with the Emperor's Royal Guards. But Imperial does have some nice benefits that we got for set 1. It's nice like Rebel Imperial getting boost in this set. So that is the leader, a nice common leader, very nice one. So if you love those when defeated abilities, you'll have a good chance of reusing them. And also remember they have showcases. So every leader as of set 2 has a showcase, and even now every leader in the game, because Luke and Vader are going to get showcases in the I can't remember which event now it is. It's like Sector or something like that. But all leaders get showcases, and all they are is alternative arts, more shiny, higher rarity arts of the leaders, so like more value. But then the kind of with how the art style is in Star Wars, with like loads of different artists contributing, it's kind of hit and miss. Like some of them seem to be like absolutely amazing, and some of them are pretty lackluster. But then again, art is always subjective. So if you like it, fair enough, you play that. If you don't like it, fair enough, don't play it. And this is Thrawn's. Thrawn has got a really nice one. It really looks really nice. And if I were to play Thrawn, I would probably try to get a showcase. But yeah, I have to see first, do some lists to see how I feel about it. But Thrawn looks to be a very nice one. Now let's get into some info. Because remember, this is one that is more tailored towards newer players, so that way when they're starting the game, I like to keep basic information in. So we're going to go on now to do some basic information, like things like aspects, bases, and ratios, which some newer players might not really know, and it's best to give them that information so that if they look into this place to start on this video, then they've got everything they need. Where if you feel like you're more a veteran player, more like a veteran at the game, then you feel like this information isn't going to be useful, feel free to check out the description below and use the timestamps to kind of skip along to the video to the parts you want. They're all down there, noted for ease of reference, so feel free to use those and enjoy. So without further ado, let's get into some basic information for all you new players. So starting off with the bases, because From the beginning of the game, or especially for set 1, we had rare bases and common bases. Now, the difference being that rare bases are differing variants of health, so different health from the common counterparts, and to compensate for that, they either had a beneficial effect, well, before we got this set, beneficial effect for having lower health, or what's seen as a negative effect for having more health. So you can get more or less health, but an effect that kind of depends on if you got less or more health. And then for the common bases, they're just all 30 health bases with among the different aspects with different name, location, and art. And since there is no benefit of a name and location on the base, you just pick your favorite art and you go for that. So let's go and have a look and see kind of what the bases are, because bases are a never very important part of the game, because you can't play a deck without a base as well as your leader, and they offer that third aspect to your, well, potentially third aspect to your leader. So, rare bases. There are 4 in each set outside of set 2. So set 2 is the only set we have so far that doesn't have a rare base, which is nice when it comes to opening packs, because it means that your rare slot in a pack doesn't get taken up by a rare base, which is painful. But they offer a nice variation. Like we got set 1 bases being the top one there. They're the first ones we got, all 25 health, all had the same thing of an epic action, being action you need to take, just like a deploy, where you need to take up an action to do it, and you can use it once again. Then for set 2, we got no ever base. We got no rare bases. We had those all common ones. Then we had the ones from set 3, which are more Twin Suns focused, because in that format of the game, you have 2 leaders instead of 1. So you get more benefits, and they had benefits like boosting the health of your leader when it's out, or when your leader deploys get an effect. So in a game, in a format where you have 2 leaders instead of 1, you get double the benefits, where in a normal game, you get 1 benefit, and sometimes it isn't worth the health, and they all add lower health as well. And then we came to set 4. So this is the first one that's offered us more health on the base, so higher health than 30, which is pretty cool. And their effects are all around deck building and your opening hand. So we've got Colossus and Data Vault being the higher health. They both have a more health than normal, and they have kind of seen as negative effects for it. So Colossus has you draw 1 less card when you open a hand to have 5 more health. Pretty nice. Sometimes the downside of 1 less card isn't all that bad, but sometimes it is useful. Like, it depends if you feel that at 1 card is worth the extra 5 health, and most of the time it is. Then you have Data Vault, and its effect is 3 more health, but at the cost of that, you have to have 10 more cards in your deck minimum. So normal minimum deck size is 50, and Data Vault forces you to go to 60 if you want to play that for extra free health. Now, going on the opposite side of those, we have the Ever 2 bases being 27 health, so the same kind of health. And for the 3 less health on it, they have some beneficial effects. Remember, it's beneficial if it's lower, less beneficial if it's higher. And for 4 more Oscillator, it follows the same thing as Data Vault, where it's all about deck building. So for 3 less health, you might be thinking, you have 10 less cards, right? Nope, you have 5 less cards. So increase your health by 3, you get 10 more cards. Increase your health by 3, you get 5 less cards. You got 5 less, so now you can go for a minimum of 45 instead of 50. Still pretty good. And then you have Nabat Village. Now this has got 2 effects. And this is just like with Colossus, affecting your opening hand, because it allows you to draw 3 more cards during your starting hand, but you can't take a mulligan. So you lose your mulligan, but you get to open with 9 cards instead of 6. Now that seems busted, but you don't get to keep those extra 3. So you get to open with 9 cards instead of 6, and can't mulligan. And then when the first action phase starts, you need to put 3 cards from your hand on the bottom of your deck in any order. So you get to choose the order they go to, which isn't really that relevant, but it means that you have a wider view of hand to help if you're looking for a specific card to start off with, or you want to make sure you have a card to start off with, or say if you're looking for a certain combo, it could be a very nice base to use. So there's a rare bases, so you got to figure out if you feel like a rare base, if the lower health or higher health is worth the benefit. If you feel that what you're going for, like one of these rare bases, is not really worth it, then you have to vanilla bases or common bases. Now, like I said, they're all 30 health bases. Only different thing is they're in different aspects, and in those aspects, you just got a different name and location art. And like I said, since the name and location don't really matter, you pick the aspect you want to play with a base, and then you pick your favorite art and use that. And these here are my favorite ones. Being the top ones, being the new Twin Suns exclusives. Being from the new Twin Suns deck boxes, you get these ones in Hyperspace 4, which is a first. And then the bottom ones are some of the ones I prefer from the newest set in each aspect. So this is the basis. Now let's have a look and kind of go over the aspects. So in this game there are 6 aspects. There are the 4 color ones, being Vigilance, Command, Aggression, and Cunning, each offering a different style of play, and are ones that are usually on all leaders, bases, and most cards. And then accompanying them are the other two aspects, the shade ones being villainy and heroism, or black and white, and these are ones representing the dark side and the good side of the universe in Star Wars. So you've got villainy ones being the antagonists of the Star Wars universe, normally with very destructive, overpowering, controlling effects. And you have heroism, featuring a protagonist of Star Wars, featuring more rebellious and aggressive kind of ways to play, like fighting against the Empire kind of things. And the nice thing about these two aspects is, unlike the rest, they are typically not only just on their own cards, but modified and put together with the other cards as well. With the other aspects, you can get Villainy and Heroism attached on a card with Vigilance with one of the other four aspects. And we're just going to quickly go over what each of these playstyles are, because, like I said, they each have a different style of play, so it might be interesting to see kind of what aspect kind of suits your way of playing. So start off with Vigilance. This is more of a more like a defensive aspect, because it allows you lots of effects to kind of heal damage, protect your units with like shields and sentinels, and also give you, as well as that, some removal effects as well, like lots of removal in terms of events. Now this is one where if you like a patient playstyle, very defensive way to play, Vigilance is a good one for you, and if that is your forte, then a good thing is Thrawn has the aspect attached to him. Now, if we were to attach a base with it that has Command, Command is a nice one. It's all about ramping. So it's one that allows you to increase your resources and extend them so you get more resources quickly. So quicker than your opponent, ramp up so you can play out bigger things quicker, or play out more things quicker than your opponent. So if you feel like you like to overwhelm your opponent with a massive board presence or big things quickly, then Command could be a perfect one for you. Then we've got Aggression, and like the name suggests, it's a very aggressive aspect, but it's more so in terms of damage. It wants to kind of just throw out damage and just basically take out your opponent's units, or even attack their base with a lot of damage, just throw it out and be very aggressive with that. So if you're a very aggressive, fiery playstyle, Aggression could be a perfect one for you. And then we got the last one being Cunning, be like the jack of all trades, the toolbox, the what's it called, like a penknife kind of thing, where you have options for anything. So if you like to have an answer for almost everything your opponent might throw at you, or even just basically have like many different ways to play and something for each scenario, then Cunning could be a perfect one for you to try out. And then, like I said, we've got Villainy and Heroism being the other aspects. Villainy being more controlling and destructive, while Heroism being more aggressive in terms of like attacking with many units and trying to make comebacks. So those are the aspects. And with those, remember, with a base, you get a one of four different aspect combos. Because with your leader providing you two aspects, you get another one with your base, giving you four different aspect combinations. So the ways you can play with the base attached to your leader, you get the double blue version. So if you go blue base, double blue. If you go for a green base, you get blue green. With a red base, blue red. And then finally, with a yellow base, you get blue yellow. And we're going to have a look and see what kind of the benefits are of these different aspect combos, what kind of cards you get, and what kind of stuff you get provided when you go with this combination of base and with Thrawn. But before we get into that, we need to understand the aspect penalty, because this is something that comes to effect when you start playing cards, because when you go to build your deck, you can put absolutely any card you want, unless it's suspended on the suspended list, into your deck to play. Now, when it actually comes to playing the cards in the game, that's when the aspect penalty comes in. Because when playing a card, you look for the aspects on the card you want to play and see if they match anything on your leader and base. And if any of them don't match, you have to pay an additional 2 cost to the card's actual printed cost, or the cost of the effect, or whatever you're trying to use to play it, in tandem with its actual cost there. So an extra 2 on top if aspects don't match. So I got this handy dandy guide, because some people will learn by listening, some people learn by trying, some people learn by like seeing. So I thought I'd like to improve the series, add this kind of visual. So with Thrawn, with a red base, you have access to black, blue, and green, or as their names are, Villainy, Vigilance, and Aggression. And that means you have those 3 aspects. So if you were to play a card where the aspect or both aspects on that card match, like in the top box there, you just pay it for its cost, no additional cost. Now, if you wanted to play a card where one of the aspects didn't match, that's an extra 2 on top for that aspect not matching. So it means you have to pay an extra 2 on top, so 2 cost would now cost 4 because of extra 2 cost. And do remember that each aspect only provides you one aspect. So if you wanted to go for a double blue card, the blue on this aspect base combo is covered by Thrawn, but since your base is red, you don't get that second blue one, so you have to pay an extra 2 to cover that second blue aspect on that card. So do remember that aspects only provide you one of them, so if you're paying double aspects, you have to pay an additional cost. Now, for the last one, we got the ones where if both aspects on a card don't match what's on your leader base, you have to pay a whopping 4 extra cost on top of that card's cost, and that could turn a 2 cost into a 6 cost, which could be quite devastating to the trying to play it. But do remember that while the aspect penalty kind of just does make something cost a little bit more, sometimes it's worth it depending on what the card does. There have been instances of cards being played outside their aspect or out of aspect in the competitive card game, meta, that kind of shows that sometimes a card is worth paying an extra 2 for, so do bear that in mind. Now we've got the aspects all out of covered, now we're going to come up for the last one, and that is the ratios. So, in every card game, you can play up to 3 copies of up to a certain amount of copies of any given card. Now, some cards are limited, depending on what they are, but most of the cards, they have a certain amount of copies of any given card, usually. And for Star Wars, you can play up to 3 copies of card, so you can play a card at 1, 2, or 3 copies, and there are benefits to running a certain amount of copies per card. And here I have the standard 3 I normally go over to kind of give the best example. So let's go over and see when you want to include a card at 1, 2, or 3 copies. So first one we got example is resupply. So this is the ratio at 3 copies to help maximize the likelihood the desired card will be in your hand when needed. And examples would be cards you want to play on the first turn, so 2 cost cards normally you want to play turn 1, or cards you want to see multiple copies of over the course of the game, like resupply. Because usually if you're playing ramp, you want to kind of ramp as quickly as possible, as early as possible. And resupply is the most basic ramp card in the game, free cost event. This allows you to put itself in the player's resource, easy ramp, and can be played in any green deck, no matter if it's heroic or villainy. So perfect card that you want to have it free, so kind of see it as quick as you can, or as many copies as you can, so you can ramp quicker. Then we have the next card being 2 copies of card, being a good example here, Rebels Fall. This is usually the ratio for cards that aren't great to draw early in the game, but you still want to go through multiple copies over the course of the game. And examples being boss card or high costing cards like Rebels Fall. Because removal in this game is the higher the cost, the less restrictive it is. The lower the cost, the more restrictive it is. And Rebels Fall is one of the ones when it's quite high at 6 resources to just wipe out any unit, but it can defeat any unit. Because sometimes you'll have cards that say a non-leader unit, which means you can hit almost anything except from a leader unit. And that can be quite hard to do when your opponent has a very strong and very hard to remove unit. So Rebels Fall is a nice one to be able to take out almost basically anything on the board, unless it can't be defeated by effects. And then we lastly got 1 copy of a card. Now this is usually kind of ones that are tech choices, or for a ratio for cards that are added in order to specifically counter a specific situation. So I like to include the card Restock, which is added to decks to help basically counter hard control decks, because hard control will focus on exactly what this is, hard control, like focus on controlling the game, not about anything, just make sure you don't play the game essentially. And then since they're focusing on control and not damage, they're not damaging you winning the game, but when you start running out of cards in deck and can't draw anymore, you take 3 damage for every card you can't draw. So 6 if you can't draw both cards, or 1 if you can only draw one of the cards. And that's how they kind of win the game. They leave you to deck out, so that way you start trying to draw cards, you can't draw cards, start taking damage, and then you get enough damage on your base that matches half of your base. But Restock is a nice card that allows you to put back up to 4 cards from your discard pile on the bottom of the deck. And with how the game works, you can put itself as one of the copies back, so you can kind of loop it over and over again to avoid that deck out damage, to make your opponent, you running a hard control deck, have to think of a different way to kind of push damage to your base to win. So hopefully that's helped you understand with ratios when you want to have 2, 3, or 1 copies of a card in the deck, or 1, 2, 3 copies of a card in your deck. Now we've got our basic information over, let's go and check out the benefits of each different aspect. So first things first, we're going to go over the double aspect, because this is something that every aspect now can have easy access to, going double aspect, but back in set 1, only 1 deck or 1 leader in each aspect had a good chance of doing this. But now, since we've got a lot more double aspect cards, we have more options for all leaders to kind of try out. Blue is a very nice one because it has a lot of good cards, but it started off really strong, and then started declining a little bit on quality of the cards, but there are still some pretty nice ones. Because back in set 1 we had Bendu, Protector, and Vigilance being pretty nice ones. Bendu being a nice sentinel that whenever it attacks, you get to play the next non-heroic or non-villainy card at 2 cost less, like what unit I think it is. And then Protector was an easy way to make any card sentinel, just a 1 cost upgrade that makes a unit sentinel. And then you have Vigilance, which is something all aspects got, a 4 cost event, double aspect, named after the aspect itself, giving you 4 options, you can choose any 2 among them, and resolve them how you ever want. And Vigilance is nice because it goes in well with the aspects kind of way to play, being milling 6 cards on top of your opponent's deck, healing 5 damage for a base, defeating a unit with 3 or less remaining HP, or giving a shield to a unit, so very defensive, healy kind of things like that. That was for set 1, very nice there, Vigilance being the best one. And then for set 2, we got Sugi, Second Chance, and Midnight Repairs. Sugi was a nice one, a 4-cost unit, 4/6 that could get set if your opponent has an upgraded something upgraded on their board, and it can also use a new skill, a new mechanic from that set, being Smuggle, so play it from your resources. Then you had Second Chance being a very high-costing upgrade that basically was like a revive for one of your units, because you can attach it to any non-leader unit, and if it would be defeated, you can play it for free from your discard pile, which is nice, kind of like a free revive, given the name of it. Then you had Midnight Repairs being a very good healing effect, being able to heal 8 damage from any amount of units on board, at a cost of 2, but you're then restricted to double aspect if you want to play it for 2. Then for set 3, we got probably the worst bunch of it, being having Finn, Duchess Champion Equalize. Finn and Duchess Champion aren't very good ones, not really worth using given their effects, but Equalize is a pretty nice one, being able to do kind of the same thing as Make an Opening, being a free cost event, making something get -2/2 to their stats, so 2 less health, 2 less power. But the benefit instead of healing is that if you still have less units in your opponent than the controller of the one you first targeted, then you can minus another unit by 2/2 as well. So you can -2 your opponent's units by 2/2, which makes it a very good card for helping against Django. And then with set 4, we only got one double aspect in each aspect, and the one we got for blue was Hondo, being a 4-cost free 5 unit, comes in shielded, and when it attacks, you can take control of a non-pilot upgrade on a unit and attach it to another different unit. So basically, like upgrade stealing of non-pilots, which is cool. And it comes in protected, pretty decent stats, not too bad. And it is a legendary, just like Vigilance and Second Chance. So if you want to try out double blue, I'm not sure if there's too many when defeated effects, but if there are, then there's a good amount of healing among them, so it could be useful. And you can make use of some really nice things, even go a very good way to take control of this. So now let's check out, if you put a different aspect with a base, what you'll get. Before we do, let's see what Thrawn provides us. So, what Thrawn provides you is basically all the cards that are both just Vigilance, or cards that are Vigilance and Villainy. So there's some pretty nice cards, some very nice cards in the Vigilance and Villainy side. It makes for a very good control deck, and Thrawn's effect to reuse when defeated effects could be really nice. You got some pretty nice things like you've got Cunning and Inferno 4, and also Wartime Trade Official, along with Onyx Squadron Brute, being some nice early turn plays, all turn 1 plays. And Cunning is nice because it reduces the cost of cards that have one defeated effect, so you can play out cheaper. Comes in shield as well to protect itself, very nice card. You got Inferno 4, Wartime Trade Official, and Onyx Brute Squadron, all have one defeated effects, so they can play 1 cheaper with Cunning, and be triggered twice with Thrawn. They're all good turn 1 plays to make use, and have some nice beneficial effects, like Inferno 4 kind of filters the top 2 cards of your deck, so if you want to keep them there, bottom decking it. Wartime Trade Official can get you a token, so you can get 2. And then Onyx Squadron Brute gives you the ability to heal 2 damage from your base. Then we got some pretty nice some space units as well. Like we got Thrawn's Chimera, be a nice way that when it comes down, you can trigger the when defeated ability on another unit. So if you already have Wartime Trade Official, you can play out Chimera and trigger that. And then because you're using the effect, a when defeated effect, Thrawn and then trigger as well, which is pretty nice. And also, it's got its own when defeated effects. So you can play it cheaper with Cunning, being it creates 2 TIE Fighter tokens. Then you got Malevolence Effect, which is kind of a really nice one that can make use of the set 3 mechanic exploit, allowing you to kill off your own units, play it cheaper. So for every one you defeat, you play it 2 cheaper. So you can make use of like this with the token generating cards that have one defeated tokens with Thrawn, which makes for a really nice way to play. And it offers you healing with Restore 2, and also stops something from attacking this turn its play, which is nice. It's a 9 cost, but then, like I said, you can make it cheaper. Then you got some very nice removal events, like Power Dark Side, forcing your opponent to defeat one of your units, so a very nice card, forcing them to defeat something. And then No Glory, No Results, allowing you to take control of your opponent's units and then defeat it, so you get to trigger any effect it might have when it's defeated, which is cool. Sometimes it could be a negative, but sometimes it could be a benefit. And then on the non-villainy side, we've got some pretty nice cards here as well. We got things like Val, Distant Patroller, as like turn 1 plays you can trigger, which have when defeated effects. So Distant Patroller is not a great one, but is something you can use, which you give a shield token to a Vigilance unit. So if you've got a Vigilance unit out, when it's defeated, you can give a shield token. And then Thrawn can trigger that to give that unit another shield token, or another unit a shield token, which is nice. So nice benefits there. Then you've got Val, who's got 2 effects. You've got Bounty and a when defeated. So the Bounty is, you get to deal 3, your opponent gets to deal because your opponent's going to be killing it. You get to deal 3 damage to a unit. So your opponent gets to deal 3 damage to 1 of your units. And then its defeated effect is give 2 experience to a tokens to the unit. And the thing with this, which it doesn't show on the hyperspace card, unfortunately, is that your opponent gets to choose the order. So they can deal 3 damage before experience, or they can be silly and give experience then damage. So you got to make sure that if you're giving something 2 experience with this, it's got more health than the 3 damage. So it's advised to give the experience because you don't want to have that happen and you basically just lose both units. But since you can trigger it by Thrawn twice, you can give 4 experience to a token to a unit, then take 3 damage to it, which is not too bad because if you can heal it off, you just boost this like up hugely. Then you got things like landing shuttle and multi-troop transport being nice vehicles, which landing shuttle just when defeated draws a card, so a nice way to draw more cards, and then multi-troop transport has exploits so it can force triggering those when defeated effects, and on attack just creates more battle tokens that make use of the exploit effects. Then you got some nice upgrades, like you've got Roger and Perilous Position. Perilous Position being a very nice upgrade to minus your opponent's stats and rest that unit. And Roger could be a nice one if you go for that token unit, want to do like a niche, funny, more casual token focused one. Be able to generate a lot of tokens with those when defeated things. So you can put it onto a unit, and when defeated, that it attaches to a battle droid token when defeated. So you keep putting on tokens so it never leaves the board and makes one of those tokens stronger. Then you got removal effects like Takedown and Ravel Sword, which are very nice ways to take out things without needing to attack into them. So that's all the stuff that Thrawn offers. Now if we put a different aspect on a base, what do we get? So the next aspect we've got is Command. And this is a pretty nice one because it allows you to ramp and also has the other side of those when defeated battle droid token creators, like Confederate Courier here being a nice never turn 1 play. That once again, when defeated, gets to create battle droid tokens. You've got 2 ways to do it. Makes for a nice way to play. You want Super Laser Technician, which, like I said, this won't trigger for Thrawn because when you need to actually put the card itself into resources, the second time you try to do it, there won't be a Super Laser Technician in the discard to put it in, so you won't be able to put that into resources. You can ramp with it. Then you got some nice other units, like you got Phase 3 Dark Trooper being a nice Sentinel to protect your units, and you also got some really nice cards like Darth Vader and Admiral Trench being nice high costing cards. Really good effects, and even Admiral Trench can exploit and come out cheaper, and then grab you back some units that you might have lost from exploiting. You also have Super Laser Tank as well, and Never card you can exploit at quite high for basically just a big beat stick. And then you got some very powerful events like Overwhelm Barrage being one of the best, probably the best event in the game, and Palpatine's Return being like a revival card exclusive to the Villainy side of Command. You also got in the non-Villainy side of Command some pretty nice cards. So you've got Vanguard Infantry being a nice one. With when defeated, you may give an experience token to a unit, so never way to kind of give experience to a unit. And with Thrawn, you can trigger twice, so 2 experience is pretty good. You got a Obedient Vanguard, be able to when defeated, give a trooper unit +2/2 for the fade, which is on all token units, or token ground units anyway. And then you got Cobb Vamp being a very nice one, where it's not nice for defeated, where you get a look at top 10 cards of your deck, mill 2 cost or less card, and then play it for free from your discard pile during this turn. So you got to take an action to do it, but you get to play Sync for free, and it keeps Sync on board, which is pretty nice. And being able to trigger this twice is very, very good. Then you got some nice things like Ancient Callus has like kind of way to ambush, and then if you defeat something, if a unit that is unique is defeated, so you can do that by exploiting, you get the draw cards, a nice way to draw if you want to, and also you've got some nice exploit cards like Bactoid, Spider Droid, and then you got Gore as well, being nice ones that are normally high costing, but kind of a little cheaper if you defeat your own units, and it has some pretty good effects like both of these have ambush. Speaking of ambush, you have an event that allows you to give a unit ambush, being Timing Adventure. You can also smuggle this in because it's from set 2 where you can got the smuggle mechanic, and you got resupply as a way to ramp 2. So that's Command. So if you want to play a way to kind of ramp up and make use of more battle tokens and abuse exploit, probably Thrawn is a good way to play that, and does pretty well with having mostly exploit stuff, well, mostly good exploit stuff, and good exploit fodder in its aspects. Next, we've got Aggression. This is pretty nice because if you've got any when defeated effects that deal damage, then you can trigger it twice. That makes for a pretty nice burn deck in a sense. Because in this set, we get a new kind of way to damage, being indirect damage, which is damage that can't be prevented, and your opponent gets to choose where it goes, and it either goes to their base or their units, however they choose. And you've got some nice ways to kind of trigger this. Like you've got first order Stormtrooper being one, where when it attacks or is defeated, you get to inflict 1 indirect damage on your opponent, so they get to choose where it goes, base or leader. And you can do on an attack when defeated, which is pretty nice. You can trigger that twice or 3 times if you attack with it first, then it gets defeated or into one of your opponent's units. Then you got OOM series officer, being when defeated, deals damage at base. Pretty nice burn there. It's 4 damage at base with Thrawn. You got Special Forces TIE Fighter being a pretty nice new space unit, where when played, if you control less space units than your opponent, you get to ready it. Pretty nice there to kind of reach down and be able to attack straight away. And then you start getting to the bigger units that kind of deal a lot of damage, with like Rufus Vader, be a nice one. Also, has one defeat effects, it triggers twice off Thrawn, pretty nice, really good card. And then you got Count Dooku as a way to kind of exploit things to kind of trigger those one defeat effects, and even do damage when you do exploit units to play it out. And you got Devastator being a card that when it's down, you get to choose, you got a unique effect, a unique ability to be able to choose where the indirect damage goes, rather than your opponent choose where it goes. You get to choose, and you can put it either where you want, or for the base, or spread out you choose. And when it is played, you get the thing like 4 indirect damage, so when it comes down, it's going to do 4 damage, however you choose, which is pretty cool. And you've got some nice events that do damage as well, like you've got Force Choke as a way to just throw 5 damage to a non-vehicle unit, and then if you do that to whoever controls the unit that you deal damage to, you get to draw a card. It's pretty nice kind of wipe out some lower ones, or even then damage some heavier ones to kind of fish them off. And then you got Self-Destruct, being a way to defeat one of your friendly units if you do deal 4 damage to a unit, and that's another way to kind of trigger those one defeat effects and also do more damage out as well. Then on the non-dark side of red, or of aggression, we got some pretty cool ones. So I'm trying to note as many of the good when defeated effects, or the few when defeated effects we've got that are kind of useful. You got Rokai Gunship being a nice turn 1 play. When defeated, you can deal 1 damage to a unit or a base. You get to choose there. You got the option. You got Starwind Scout, which if you have the initiative, when defeated, you can draw 2 cards. So you can potentially draw 4 cards from that. Pretty nice. It makes your opponent kind of want to keep initiative away from you. Might ruin a turn, because it is a 4 power, 1 health unit, so it's easy defeated, but hit packs a serious punch. You got Droid Missile Platform as well, where when defeated, you can inflict 3 indirect damage to a player. So when it's defeated, you can do it with Thrawn and inflict 6 damage. And the thing with indirect damage as well is you can't just shove all that damage on something that's got 1 health, because it does it 1 by 1. So if your opponent's got a unit that's got 1 health, they take 1 damage and then be defeated, and then they have to put that 5 damage somewhere else, not just 1 at 1 unit. So that's pretty nice a way to kind of prevent that from being a thing. Then you got Heavy, having a when defeated, deal 1 damage to each enemy ground unit. And then there's the when defeated we've got. And then we've got some nice other cards like Chancellor to be the ramp card, the first ramp card in aggression. So aggression has 1 ramp card, where if you're down on resources, or if you have less resources than your opponent when it's played, you can resource the top card of your deck. And then you got Heavy Persuader Tank being a nice way to exploit those when defeated units to kind of play it out and also put 2 damage on your opponent's ground unit. You also got ever events that kind of deal damage, like Daring Raid, being allowed you do for 1, 2 damage to either unit or base, kind of more damage to base or finish the unit off. And even then, Planetary Bombardment being a new legendary from this set, allowing you to do 8 indirect damage to your opponent. But if you control a capital ship, which we've seen that Devastator and Rufus Radar, you get to deal 12 damage instead, indirect damage to your opponent instead. So often, if you have a capital ship down, you're forcing your opponent to take 12 damage, however they choose, unless you got Devastated down, and you can choose the threat at 12 on their base, kind of burn them with that. So some pretty nice cards, and a very fun way to play Thrawn. So next we have the last aspect being Cunning. So with Cunning, like I said, is all a jack of all trades. I'm not sure if there's not too many when defeated effects, but it's pretty nice ones. You got very nice turn 1 units, like Bazine and Siberian Starhopper. Bazine is one of those ones that gives you that hand knowledge by looking at your opponent's hand, ripping a card out of it if you want to. You don't have to if you don't want to. And then your opponent draws a card if you do rip a card out of their hand, but you get to have that hand knowledge, know what they've got in their hand, and maybe take away their only turn 1 play, or take away their play for the turn. And then you got Zysterian Starhopper, which is when defeated, deal 2 indirect damage to your opponent, or to a player. So it's another way to burn in the with yellow. And then you got some nice aerospace units like Cartel Spacer, where you can rest like 4 or less if you control a Cunning unit already. And then P38, having the when played or when defeated deal damage. You can trigger that again off of Thrawn. And you got some nice other units like Bosk, allowing you to deal 2 damage to still 2 damage to a unit whenever you play an event. So the more events you play, the more damage you can do with it when he's on board, and he even has ambush as well. And you have Boba effect. Boba here being a multi-use one of those pilot cards where you can either pilot it onto a vehicle unit as an upgrade, and then if you do that, you get to ping some damage, or play it out as a normal ground unit, but it comes in shielded, which is pretty nice. You also have some pretty nice events like No Good to Me Dead being a lockdown cards for 2 turns, and Triple Dark Raid being the cheat out of vehicles so you can attack straight away with them, still have them inactive, make use of them, and then they go back to your hand in turns so you can play them out again. Then in the non-dark side of Cunning, you got some pretty nice stuff. You got things like Greedo with a when defeated, which is pretty good, can do more damage, depends what you mill. and also a very good good statted aggressive card for 1 cost. Crafty Smuggler would be a nice like Cunning, comes with shielded, same stat, same cost, nice one to keep around. You got Genesis Patrol's Fighter and Tridroid Suppressor being cards that have exploits, so you can sack off units, trigger those when defeated to kind of trigger them and have some nice effects, bring out these higher costing units a little bit earlier. And then you've got some really good events, like Cunning has a lot of good events. Then you've got things like McClunky Villa bounces Underworld units, so if a Crafty Smuggler's lost its shield, bounces back to your hand, and do 3 damage to something, and play it back out so it then gains its shield back. And in some ways to kind of like push more damage, like Surprise Strike, ways to play things inactive so that you can attack more, so you've got both Triple Dark Raid and also Sneak Attack to play things out inactive so you can attack straight away with them. And even Change of Heart so you can take on your opponent's units and use it for that turn, but you have to give it back at the end. So if you like that, like basically playing out things active, being a bit more aggressive, and having a bit more in terms of options of like being able to do stuff, then Cunning could be a good one for you. And also remember that I said there are Villainy cards that are just Villainy. So we got some nice ones here. Like we got these ones here being Admiral Motti, Battle Droid Escort, Battle Droid Legion, and Merciless Contest being nice cards you can include in Thrawn, because the units that you see here all have when defeated effects. They can be played cheaper with Credit on board and be triggered twice off Thrawn. So Motti restands a Villainy unit when defeated, so you can restand 2 Villainy units, which is pretty cool. And if you're exploiting off a unit, you can restand that exploited unit as long as it's Villainy, which is pretty nice. You've got Battle Droid Escort being another way to kind of generate tokens with when played, when defeated. So when played or when defeated, it creates a Battle Droid token. So you can trigger that once when played, and then twice when defeated, thanks to Thrawn. You also have Battle Droid Legion, which comes out cheaper. You can exploit 2 other units to make it out a 5 cost instead of a 9 cost. It comes out as a 6/5. But if it's defeated, you get to create 3 Battle Droid tokens. And if you've got Thrawn, you can get out 6 by triggering it again. And you've got Merciless Contest, which is a nice one because it's like Power Dark Side, but it forces both you and your opponent to defeat your non-leader units. So you're both forced to defeat a unit, but if you've got no units, you don't defeat anything. But if you've got a unit that's got when defeated, that you can force trigger that if you want, using this, to then force you to use that unit and then trigger its when defeated effect, which is pretty nice. Then lastly, we've got my preferred aspects. So something that I didn't include on the first series of this, so I think even the second series, but I included in the last one, was my preferred aspects. People did ask what would be my preferred aspects to play for any of the leaders, and I thought this would be a nice thing to add going forward from set 3. So in this, I'm going to add, in the series, I'm going to add at the end what my preferred aspects would be if I were to play that leader. So if I were to play Thrawn, and I've done a little bit of testing with Thrawn, it's been quite fun. My preferred aspect would be aggression because you got it's nice burn damage to kind of just burn and win, makes very nice control, and you got a lot of different ways to kind of force through damage through like the when defeated effects and everything, which is pretty cool. Then the other way to play would be with command, because I like to do the ramp with like you make for a very nice control deck with the green and blue together in Villainy, and you got powerful cards like Overwhelm Barrage. You got some pretty cool when defeated effects like in the Vanguard Infantry and Cop. So that is the end of the video, and hopefully that's helped you understand how to build Grand Admiral Thrawn and be able to go and build a deck, try it out, and then have it suit you and your playstyle. So that is all the Villainy units for Vigilance now. So from tomorrow we'll have the heroic ones before we start the next aspect next week. So look forward tomorrow. For I think it's going to either be Rose or Lando. I can't remember which one's first, but expect to see the next one of my understanding of the build series tomorrow. So thank you for watching. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you next one. Bye for now.